Technology,
Science,
space,
environment,
people.
places.
It's all totally awesome.
Today on Totally Awesome, a baby pram that ensures a breath of fresh air.
Using technology to create the perfect CD.
We find out the real story about time.
And reintroducing some very special animals to the wild. Visitors come from far and wide to this famous wetland to see wildlife and enjoy the peace and quiet. But with an estimated 13,000 boats going up and down these waterways, ecologists are worried about water pollution and damage to the banks from diesel-powered craft. This unusual boat could provide the answer though. Named Ra after the Egyptian sun god, it is the first solar-powered boat on this water. Commissioned from Germany by the Broads Authority, it will ferry 12 passengers in silent, clean comfort. Solar panels on the roof provide the fuel for the boat, and because it has a catamaran design, there is less wash than an ordinary craft and less damage to the banks. The project has been underway for 5 years, and designers say it's the perfect combination of science and design. Because it has a stainless steel structure, it's extremely efficient. You don't need to paint it, and that in itself saves dangerous pollutants from entering the water. Almost 2 centuries after these windmills were built, alternative energy is coming back, if nothing else to provide a quiet ride in the countryside and a safer, cleaner environment.
Rush hour in most major cities and towns provide an influx of pollution and noise. Babies and young children are often at risk as they sit in prams on levels with exhaust pipes of passing cars, buses and trucks. Children are very vulnerable to pollution because their lungs are forming and breathing difficulties such as asthma are becoming very common. Introducing the latest in baby pram design, the Apollo Baby Sphere. This pram claims to remove 99% of particle pollution. That includes not only exhaust fumes, but pollen, dust, smoke and diesel particles that have been linked to breathing problems. It works by a small battery-powered motor that draws the air through the fabric and paper filter. It cleans the air and then disperses it inside the canopy, which is no different to a rain canopy. The filter lasts for 100 hours, and when you look at them, you can see what our lungs are taking in. Ugh. What a way to ride. Safe, clean, and smelling fresh. Oh, except for those nappies.
We do special journalist discounts, so...
If you have a younger brother or sister, this could be the way to go. It has even been tested in desert conditions and protects the baby from harmful effects of the sun. Don't you wish they'd invented these things when you were a baby? Baby bubbles, coming to a pram shop near you.
Still looking at environmental issues, here taxis have shown their concern for the environment by launching the first commercially available gas-powered cab. In 1998, the first green cabs were put to use. They ran on an electrochemical engine. Most of the cabs will have an engine transplant soon, replacing their old diesel engines with a liquefied petroleum gas or LPG engine. LPG engines produce 75% less emissions than diesel engines and therefore cuts the damage being done to the ozone layer. Carbon monoxide is the dangerous byproduct released from vehicles into the air. It is damaging to the body because it reduces the oxygen supply to the body's tissues. Alternative fuels not only benefit the environment from a greenhouse point of view, but they also stop damage being done to the human body, something that's very important to us all. Taxi cabs are a common sight in most big cities, and they provide a much needed form of transportation. But along with buses, they have a motor that runs nearly all day, and their emission is high. Not only is LPG a cheaper fuel, it is the next best way of helping fight against environmental damage and creating cleaner and safer cities to live in.
Chemistry. No, not the science, but the CD burning system. Heard of it? Next time you go for a browse for clothes, try visiting an in-store kiosk and putting down any of the tunes you want on CD. Chemistry is a combination of network connections and internet technology that allows a shopper, that's you and me, to download music and burn any tracks into a CD to take home. Cool, hey? CD burning is a great new way to get all the tracks you want, and a typical CD can hold up to 70 minutes of music. When a CD is recorded onto, a laser darkens the surface and creates a spiral track containing a sequence of dark marks. These dark marks are the information needed to replay all your favourite music. CD recordable discs can only be used once, but with CD rewritable discs, the dark marks can be erased and new information stored. What about the cost though, you ask? Well, for the same cost as a commercial CD, it can be all yours. Imagine all the best tracks on one CD, and most well-known artists are available. MP3s are music storage files for your computer. If you were to surf the site at home and wade through the track listings, it could take you up to 2 hours to download your music, depending on things like modem connection speed and file sizes. At the store, the time ranges from 10 to 25 minutes. At the moment, there are more than 200 tunes to choose from, and you can even personalise your CD to make a great gift for someone special. Choose your track, out it pops, and away you go. How easy was that? The idea has been so popular that there has been a demand for other stores to set up. So look out, it could be coming your way in the future.
This is not an ordinary software company. The technology here has won a prestigious technology award for its highly intelligent, virtual human stuntman project. The technology developed by these three has been picked to appear in the next generation PlayStation games. What they have developed through simulation rather than animation is a human figure whose movement is closer to the real thing than ever before. The difference with this figure compared to others is its simulation of muscles and a working brain. This is all worked out with maths and Isaac Newton's laws of physics. Physics deals with the science of motion. Here is an example with the use of basic stick figures. Animators will add the skin and features later. When the figure is green, he's just a normal animated character. But when he goes red, he's actually generating his own behaviour. All of this technology is completely automatic. Unlike existing character animation, where you have to animate each movement individually by hand. The same ideas are being applied to non-human forms, and the applications go beyond the current forms of computer games. Its uses include making robots operate in a more realistic fashion and creating better safety features in cars, using human likenesses instead of crash test dummies. The team is currently working together to improve the technology and make the whole process a lot faster. But the future of video games has just taken a whole new step forward in design.
This is in, I don't know,
This is not the first steam engine, even though it looks old enough to be. It's actually the first steam locomotive to demonstrate what steam power could do on the railways. It's called Stephenson's Rocket, and lately it's been doing the tour of museums and exhibitions around the world. It was built many years ago for a competition to find out whether railways could be operated by steam engines. Previously, they had been using very old-fashioned form of stationary steam engines and cables. It was actually a step into the future. Rescued back in the 1860s from under a hedge, it now stands proudly in the museum next to the Apollo 10 capsule and other amazing engineering achievements, attracting visitors from all around the globe.
At the third stroke, it will be 11:59 and 40 seconds. At the third stroke, it will be 11:59.
Here is a bird's eye view of a very famous place. This is the Royal Observatory at Greenwich. It was founded 300 years ago, and since then, its work has evolved from mapping the sky to becoming the world's timekeeper. In the early years, it was here that astronomers plotted the movements of the stars and produced information about mapping for sailing navigation. All this has been taken over by technology, but it is Greenwich that still marks the time around the world. The Greenwich Time Ball, once a guide to boats, still falls at 1 p.m. every day. The Story of Time is an exhibition set up to explore the amazing history of time and our need to have it. It begins with stories about creation, such as that of the Hindu god Shiva. Then to the North American Navajo Indians, whose story about the world's origins are told through a sand painting. Each religion has an explanation of how we came to be, and it's important to us all to know where our lives began. This calendar from Bali is an early example of people's ways of dividing up time and showing it in a picture. It shows days when it was thought to be lucky or unlucky to start some activities. This is a Chinese fire clock. The incense stick burns through the threads at regular intervals, dropping balls into a tray as a way of marking time. Another popular way of reading time in the 18th century was with a sundial. The time of day was shown when the sun moved across the sky and shadows were cast across the dial. Maps of the stars, made by the Chinese, provide clues about their idea of time. Each planet was associated with one of the 5 elements. Space has long held an important role in the story of time. Sophisticated instruments, like this transit circle telescope, were installed at Greenwich in the mid-19th century. It is mounted on the north-south axis, which is the axis the Earth rotates on. It is the only reliable source for astronomers, as its position marks the zero longitude. This means that visitors can walk across the line that marks the eastern and western hemisphere. This is the home of the clock that we know best in our world to mark time, especially when you're late for school. Time has always held a major importance in our world, whether it's marking the change in seasons or just keeping our everyday life in order.
Talking about time, we do take it for granted that everyone thinks of time in the same way. But it was not always this way. In ancient Japan, there were 2 kinds of hours, the hours of light and the hours of dark, each divided into 6 periods of roughly 2 hours. But because of the length of daylight varied with the seasons, the hours of light would be longer in summer and shorter in winter. Clockmakers had to make constant adjustments. One way to do this was to shift weights up and down these horizontal arms to alter the speed of the clock. A very clever clock, really. It altered the time according to the seasons from both daytime and nighttime. The history of the clock is often shown in Japanese artwork. Once Japan and Europe started to work together, Japanese craftsmen had to find ways to adapt the imported clocks to think in the way of the traditional system of timekeeping. These beautiful pieces give us an amazing insight into the world of the past. We should all take the time to learn about it.
Doesn't it just make your mouth tingle with the thought? The dental chair, the dreaded drill, it's a scene that fills patients with fear. But wait, there's hope on the way. A new technique could be the answer that ends the drilling of teeth to remove tooth decay. Normally, when you have decay, a large section of the tooth affected by bacteria known as caries is drilled away. The new technology means only a small amount of drilling through the enamel is done to access the damaged area. The enamel doesn't have nerve endings, so this means no more pain. The tooth is then treated with a technique called singlet oxygen. What it does is basically react with almost anything in its path, and the first thing it comes in contact with, the infected bacteria, it binds itself to and destroys. The new technique has been trialled successfully in the laboratory, and now it needs to be better designed to suit real situations. It is certainly an important breakthrough, especially for those of us who have an appointment coming up. In reality, the fear of going to the dentist often stops about 50% of the population getting their teeth checked. This new technology of pain-free dentistry could solve that problem. The other important thing about this discovery is its use in hospital situations. The technique kills many other bacteria, including one of the most dangerous organisms on the planet, MRSA. With the ability to kill over 100 million bacteria in less than a minute, it may remove the need for antibiotics. With technology like this, the next time you are heading for the dentist's chair, relax and be confident. You never know, it could be a painless visit.
This busy little guy is a beaver. The beaver is an amazing mammal that lives near rivers and lakes and builds nests from trees, mud and stone. The beaver is a rodent, and like other rodents, it uses its scent to communicate with other members of its species. If any danger is around, it can warn others by slapping its tail on the surface of the water. This whacking sound can be heard for almost 1 kilometre. To build a home, it uses its huge incisor teeth to fell large branches of trees and create a dam. This produces a marsh that is rich in water plants, insects, birds and fish. He does not eat fish though, he's purely a vegetarian. In fact, the sap below the tree's bark is what he most likes to eat. He's also capable of eating woody materials and stores small logs underwater for food sources in winter. The beaver's fur is waterproof, and when he's diving in the cold, fresh water, he closes his nose and ears, and a protective membrane shields his eyes. The Wildwood Trust, which specialises in animal conservation projects, is confident that the beaver, among other protected animals, is a vital link to our environment. Recently, thousands of beavers have been successfully reintroduced to many countries in mainland Europe and across the whole of the USA and Canada. The beaver is a natural water gardener. He plays an important role in the conservation and ecology of the land, and his preservation is something we should all be aware of.